Greetings, everyone. My name is Carrie Med, Superintendent of Schools for SAD 52, and we are getting close to budget voting season. It is May, and that's when that happens. So I want to make sure everybody has an update on the final proposed budget from the school board for next school year. So as a summary, the total budget is up over last year's budget, 6.76%, which is about $2.36 million. The local increase is an average of 7.47%, so a little bit more or less depending on the town, which is $1.5 million. So that's the summary of it. But I think it's really important for everyone to know sort of how we got here and why those numbers look the way they look, because the school board had a very challenging time building this budget. So just a little context. In the school funding formula, we received $20,263,000 from the state in subsidy, which is $1.3 million more than last year, which is great. We also are being required to increase the local contribution by $500,000. So that's 8.9 million. So about half of the increase we're seeing on the local end is due to that required contribution going up. And that just has to do with valuations of the towns. It's not something we have control over. So the total funding between the state and the required local is $29 million rounded. That's not the total budget, and it doesn't meet our needs. So let me explain to you what pressures the board is feeling in terms of, and our schools are feeling in terms of why that number is higher than that. So just some context for the FY24 school year, SAD 52 sort of in context in relationship to schools around us in terms of the per pupil expenditure is really second lowest. Auburn is the lowest, with the state average being 20,000. We're at about 17,000, but you can see area school districts around us spending more money than we are on that. And so I really just think that this is information that's helpful in terms of recognizing that the school board and administration are working really hard to be respectful of the money that we do ask for from our locals and are being very frugal with that in relation to our neighbors. So the goals for the budget was, we know we don't have the outcomes in reading and math that we've wanted, especially since the pandemic. So the board invested heavily in reading and math materials. We know that we need to continue to support, recruit, and retain special education staff. It's the hardest group of people for us to hire. We have an increasing number of students who are identified with disabilities, and so the budget we're feeling the impact of that. And we have a lot of facilities issues and repairs and maintenance that have just been sort of gone to the wayside in the last couple of years. The board's made a lot of progress in making a plan for that. And so that's another part of it. And then finally, in the context of all of that, and not finally, but sort of like the overall part of this, is that fiscal responsibility and that pressure the board and administration feels in building a budget that we think can be supported by the community, but also fulfills the basic needs of what we need to accomplish in the schools. So here are our challenges. So if you remember, we got an additional $1.3 million from the state. Our health insurance came back at 12.9% increase, a number that we have not seen in a long time. And we're, like many businesses, now contributing to the earned paid leave law in the state of Maine. So our staff and health insurance increases, staff salary and health and insurance increases were $921,000. So that's a major chunk of that. Another piece is the special education budget. Our numbers haven't increased, but the needs of our students have also increased. So just the portion that we need to spend, our portion of main care, that is to pay for services for students in out-of-district placements, that line alone is up $350,000. We've seen a huge increase in what we need to spend. We are also struggling to hire speech pathologists, so our budget line is up for that to account for contracts. And then we need 2 additional teachers, one at Green Central School and one at the high school. And so those things combined with out-of-district increases has increased the special ed budget by 15%, a very huge number. And then finally, facilities. We have to start to invest in them so that we don't end up in a situation like some of our neighboring schools where they have had to close schools unexpectedly. We need to replace roofs, we need to fix heating, we need to do all those things to keep the buildings functioning. And so the facilities budget is up 15%, 275,000 in minor capital improvements. And then we begin payment on a loan for the replacement of the boiler at Green, reducing our energy use with new lighting throughout the district, and then tackling air ventilation in both Leeds and Green. So those are some significant projects that we're undergoing that are part of that increase. So I'm sure everyone has heard about the federal funding challenges that we're facing and we're concerned about. I'll just give you a little bit of an overview of the two types of federal funding that receive. The first is title funding. This is the one that's probably most in the news these days. This school year, we received $475,000. We anticipate less money. Hopefully we'll get money next year, but we anticipate less. That money provides all of our professional development for staff. It provides funding for our students who are struggling academically, and it funds 7 positions that we have currently employees in. 7 positions for next year. We eliminated some because we knew we were guessing we weren't going to have enough money here. The second pot of money we get from the federal government is for special education. It's called IDEA. And this year we've received $608,000, so more than the title funding. That provides support to special education staff and supplemental services. For next year, we have 7 positions funded by that grant. So the loss of that funding would have a significant impact on our ability to function, especially in special education, for sure, but in both cases. So we've really focused on a maintenance of effort budget, nothing that's new or added. So we've reallocated a position from Turner Primary to Turner Elementary to follow enrollment. We've eliminated an academic support teacher at the high school because we knew we were going to need a high school English teacher because the incoming 9th grade is so big. And anticipation of grant funding going away, the instructional coach at Leeds was moved into the budget and out of grants because we knew we were going to be losing that money. We also have some increases. As I said to you, we have an increased population of special education students who have learning disabilities or a variety of disabilities. So we've added a special education teacher at the high school, a special education teacher at Green. And because the compliance and the volume of paperwork and other things that we need to do through special education to ensure we're complying with the law, we just don't have enough people supporting all of the teachers that are working. So we have a building coordinator at Turner Primary and Turner Elementary. That position was added last year. This year, we're going to add a building coordinator at the middle school and at Green. And that position, we're going to put in that grant funding, that local entitlement that's coming from the federal government. So it's not impacting the budget, but it is a new position and it's really heavily dependent on that grant funding. Other increases, like I said, reading and math. The board's invested $200,000 in new materials for reading and math to make sure that we're responding to the needs of our kids. And based on the agreement last year, we're adding lacrosse. We've got 3 teams going this year with tons of kids participating. It's been very, very successful. Next year, we anticipate spending more money in the budget to grow that program. But this year, what's in the budget for next year is the $10,000 for coaching stipends. We have made significant reductions in response to the concerns around the budget increase. The one program we eliminated was world language. The middle school students will no longer have access to a world language. We had an open position at the high school that we were struggling to fill. So that person and that position will move to the high school. We eliminated a science teacher at the high school. It was an open position. The academic support teacher, as I said to you, that position, the elementary librarian position, the teacher at Turner Primary that was eliminated and moved to Turner Elementary. We eliminated 6 EdTech 3 positions across a variety of schools and programs, 7 EdTech 1 positions across a variety, a facility specialist, and 2 speech pathologists. Now, I said to you that we've increased our contracts. We, in this budget, had both open positions plus not enough money for contracts. So we decided to just put all the money into contracts because it is so hard. If we find a speech pathologist, we will be able to spend less money in contracts. So we're just not double budgeting anymore. I just want to say a few words. There's a couple of reserve accounts that I want to point out to you that are going to be part of the budget meeting this week. We have a capital improvement account. This allows us to not have to take out loans and not to put in budget very significant projects. We are going to be fixing and replacing the water system at Turner Primary School. This summer, the roof on half of the Leeds building is going to be fully replaced. The elevator at the high school has stopped working, so we're spending money to repair that. And the wastewater treatment plant that should begin work this spring. Those were all significant amounts of money that we were able to use the capital improvement account for and not have to borrow. We also, you'll see in Article 7 and Article 19, another reserve account for a systems administration. It shouldn't say research. It's for our reserve account for replacing our financial system. The financial system that we have, it's very, very old. It's no longer supported by the company, so we need to invest and improve that. And then finally, in regular instruction, the board is very concerned about that potential loss of federal funds. So they've added to the regular instruction reserve account as a one-time only, as a way to help us to respond should that funding go away, so it doesn't cripple us as we move forward for next year. If we don't need that money, it will stay there, and we will bring that back to a vote next year as to what to do with that. So that's a summary of where we are. The revenue calculations are available on the website. It will show you exactly what each town is going to be asked to provide for funding. The budget meeting, the first vote for the budget meeting is this Thursday at 8 o'clock. This Thursday, May 8th at 6 o'clock at the high school. And then the referendum where you vote in your town offices is going to be Thursday, May 22nd from 1 to 7. So I encourage anyone to help us with that. So thank you. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions. And thanks for taking the time to listen.